One of the core teachings of Stoicism is focusing our efforts on what we can control, our judgments, choices, and actions, rather than externally perceived outcomes beyond our influence. This requires making a conscious decision to align our behavior with virtue and reason in each moment. Some key ways to act in a Stoic manner include: exercise discipline over your passions and impulses. The Stoics saw unrestrained desire and emotion as the root of suffering, as they are out of our control and typically unreasonable. Through daily practices like meditation, examine your automatic thoughts and notice when desires or aversions arise in response to circumstances. Stay mindful of the present reality without drifting into fantasies of craving or resentment. With awareness comes choice over habitual reactions fueled by past conditioning. Respond based on virtues and principles rather than instinct alone. Develop diligent daily rituals. The Stoics incorporated spiritual exercises into daily living through activities like journals, reflection upon nature, expressing gratitude, and acts of service or generosity. Consistency with practices. Healthy habits and routines strengthen our ability to meet difficulties calmly and think before habitual patterns of speech or action take over. Rituals create space in hectic times to center ourselves in reason and conscience, cultivated through discipline applied judiciously rather than reaction alone determining behavior. Live according to principle rather than emotional whims. While acknowledging feelings, make choices through coherent principles aligned with virtues like courage, justice and humility rather than fleeting moods or outside opinions alone influencing actions precariously. Have standards to fall back on during disturbing experiences through which character can grow insightfully versus confusion alone determining behaviors imperiling integrity if discretion succumbs to impulses unexamined. Principles allow participation purposefully versus reactivity risking disruption through passions unchecked compounding vulnerabilities. Combat unrealistic expectations with reality-based perspectives. Much dissatisfaction comes from wanting life to be other than it is or believing ourselves entitled to circumstances denied or beyond governance. Practices like negative visualization remind us to appreciate what we do have rather than dwell in lack according to fantasies unattainable. Expect difficulties, setbacks, and growth as natural yet means for inner resources ripen judiciously versus seen as personal attacks alone diminishing without taking responsibility through discretion developed for quality of choices available. Seek fulfillment from duties rather than outcomes provisionally bestowing satisfaction yet still leaving wanting intrinsically whenever impermanent. Speak and act judiciously in service of virtue. Refine motivations and daily discussions to uplift humanity and spread philosophy's insights compassionately rather than for contests inflating ego through another's diminishment. Choose impacting change positively through meaningful yet prudent actions and words of truth tempered with empathy, wisdom and social cohesion enhancing results through equitable methods preserving integrity while advancing issues reasonably without compromising community's values or momentum for reform if approached without stridente exacerbating unrest reactionarily. Develop patience through challenges encountered judiciously. Difficulties present opportunities to grow either resignedly or resiliently through them. Stoics advocated embracing inconveniences and discomforts to build fortitude instead of instinctively seeking ease at virtue's cost. With adversity comes fuller appreciation for life's blessings and strengthening of character navigating reality's complexities resourcefully versus situations reactively deemed inherently onerous alone. Perspective maintains optimism through setbacks addressed meaningfully versus fixating in resentment's darkness clouding solutions when problems fuel dissatisfactions if perceived as conditions alone restricting flourishing reactively. Meet successes and failures with equanimity. Outcomes depend on factors beyond personal influence, so remain detached from results provisionally bestowing pleasure according to chance or circumstance fluctuating unpredictably. Find tranquility within through duties performed diligently yet discreetly versus restlessness externally fixating on outputs alone determining fulfillment reactively. With equanimity comes resilience through both fortune's favors and misfortunes faced calmly as natural flow of occurrences rather than attachments inflaming excesses of emotion debilitating reason through identifications tightening vulnerabilities hold sensitizing reactions destabilizingly. Fulfillment comes from virtues lived judiciously rather than outcomes provisionally attained precariously. Exercise moderation according to nature rather than extremes. Stoics advocated balance tempering excesses potentially disrupting well-being, relationships, or conscience developed. While enjoying reasonable pleasures judiciously, Avoid indulgences inhibiting duties or inflating cravings past what sustains existence soundly yet frugally through needs alone, determining enjoyment rather than luxuries, risking dependencies, instability whenever unaffordable. Abstinence also averts austerity, detrimentally denying reasonable comforts or social bonds. 2. Isolating communities, strengths through separations proliferated by severity exceeding refinement. Cultivation requires judiciously yet vibrantly navigated. Express gratitude daily for life's gifts and lessons. Troubles naturally arise, yet abundant blessings also prevail for perspective regaining through appreciations cultivated contemplatively. Gratitude enriches experiences and motivates generosity, further benefiting others too. See difficulties as shared experiences through which insights emerge for common betterment versus personal condemnation alone inflaming resentments. Hardships may sting, yet human bonds and resilience awaken through them uplift spirits over fixating in self-pity. If perspectives dwell in complaints exacerbating discontentment over realities unavoidable yet navigable, complexities addressed judiciously. Develop understanding and forgive both self and others imperfectly. None comprehend or live perfectly, yet progress occurs cooperatively through acknowledgement of gaps rather than condemnations alone, diminishing community or discouraging growth through failures seen as moral deficiencies, attacking worth intrinsically versus learning experiences addressed meaningfully yet caringly. With wisdom comes compassion, recognizing shared fallibilities and capacity for atoning productively. If humility meets conviction judiciously through conscience expanded equably. Cultivate justice, empathy, and service through considered action. Private virtues actualized through principled participation benefiting humanity. Whereas resentment breeds inwardly through unhealthy comparisons or withdrawing responsibly, equity nourishes cooperative strengths of interdependence and fellowship supporting all. Promote fairness judiciously but also proactively address suffering affecting others too long. If approaches respect dignity and progress, equities light cooperatively rather than reactionarily, risking further divisions through hostility alone. Prioritize reasoned discussion over antagonism. While patience works long-term, some issues urgently require prudent yet compassionate cooperation. Persuasion occurs through appeals to shared interests and conscience appealed judiciously rather than accusations inflaming unrest. Resolve differences resourcefully according to justice and empathy-guided principles versus emotions alone skewing integrity reactively. Nonviolence remains paramount, yet flexibility allows addressing injustices too long protracted societally if approached considerately, legally, and democratically through reforms momentum unobstructed. Accept life's inherent difficulties judiciously. Change, sickness, loss, and death naturally transpire impermanently. Rather than bitterness over reality's inevitabilities or clinging anxiously, find purpose and connectivity amid uncertainties through virtues enacted. Participate fully yet discreetly according to duties and relationships. Prioritize judiciously rather than withdrawn in fear, disrupting fellowship's gifts or chasing pleasures past needs, leaving still wanting whenever unattainable reactionarily. With presence comes richer living through experiences, nuances however fleeting versus detached, fixating on outcomes alone, provisionally gratifying yet ultimately unpredictable. Develop humility through contemplation. Growth occurs through acknowledgement of humanity's shared fallibility versus arrogance assuming certainties. Daily reflection cultivates awareness of gaps remaining and commitment to fill them cooperatively through shared discoveries emerging patiently yet urgently.